Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for coming. My wife, Kathy, and I are very happy to have a chance to talk to you about our voyage with Moby-Dick. Thanks to our good friends, Karen and Bob, we have been coming to Nantucket for many, many years. Not long after our first visit, we had sand in our shoes, and we certainly had fallen in love with the culture and the amazing crafts of this island. And being collectors ourselves, we dug right in. Our Moby-Dick voyage starts around 2005 and 2006. We had learned about the whaling history of the island and Nantucket baskets, scrimshaw, and the connection to literature. The history of Nantucket and Moby-Dick will forever be woven together. In that way, Moby-Dick is just as uniquely an American story as Nantucket's baskets are uniquely an American craft. Kathy took the summer project of rereading Moby-Dick. I still owe my high school English teacher the book report, so I just read the Cliff Notes again. So we talked about the book, we talked about the historic richness of this classic, and an idea sprung up. Why not combine our favorite Nantucket crafts and the history of Moby-Dick by doing some kind of storyboard from the book? But the question for us was, what medium to use? The original idea was that we would pick certain scenes from the book and that we would have someone do a pan bone and scrim those scenes on the pan bone. So we approached a couple of artists on the island about the idea, and then the reality of scale hit us, and we figured, well, maybe we should downsize that idea to a tooth. We thought about putting just portraits of the different characters from Moby-Dick. We thought about just doing one ship and one piece. So there were a lot of different ideas that we had swirling around, but we really didn't know the exact medium that we wanted to use. Well, we decided to do some more research and reading. We went to New Bedford to the Seamen's Bethel and that other whaling museum. And after purchasing several copies of Moby-Dick, and we were even more convinced that this is a great idea, and we had to do this as a collaborative effort. When we came across a copy, let me see if I can get this right. When we came across a copy of Moby-Dick illustrated by Rockwell Kent, it all came together. Bingo. The full concept of the project really struck us. But a little bit about the book and a couple of coincidences. The whaling ship Essex set sail from Nantucket the same year Herman Melville was born. Herman Melville was born on August 1st, and the Essex set sail on August 12th. Now, I kind of believe that some of the whalemen and sailors that were aboard the ill-fated Essex, their spirit certainly came to Herman Melville and helped him maybe psychically develop this whole concept of the book and whaling. In 1841, Melville set sail on his first whaling adventure aboard the whaling ship Acushnet. 10 years later, in 1851, Moby-Dick was published. It was during that first and subsequent voyages that Melville learned about life aboard a whaling ship, foreign cultures, the whaling industry itself, as well as the hunt and the spirit and around the hunt for sperm whales. In the book, the exacting, gruesome details of the harpooning and cutting in and the processing of the whale are just too vivid for someone who had only experienced this secondhand and had been told the story. He had taken part in all of the activities in the book. He painted the picture with his words, real, raw, and there are so many themes in Moby-Dick that you can follow those threads throughout the whole book. That is for someone much better and much more well-versed than I in Moby-Dick. Just as a note, at the time Moby-Dick was published, it was panned. People didn't think of it as a great piece of literature. It took from 1851 to 1920 for people to recognize it as the classic it is now. Herman Melville spent most of his life in New York City. He worked on the west side of Manhattan as a customs agent in the area we would now call the meatpacking district, and in the 20s. And much of his time there was spent dealing with all of the people, the sailors and the workmen that he had come to know, not physically, but about their lives on the sea. Back to the project. So what happened next during the summer of 2006 was that we decided the best way to completely encompass the historical connection to Nantucket by doing a large Nantucket basket. It was like the Three Bears. Pan bone too big, tooth too small, basket just right. It would hold the same idea of scenes from the book, portraits of characters, and allow us a medium to express our shared love of Nantucket crafts, basket weaving, scrim, carving, and island experiences. This was going to be an important project, and to us, we needed to find someone to truly collaborate with and would be as excited as we were about the project. We spent the summer of 2006 meeting with several basket makers, not necessarily discussing the project with each one of them, but just getting to know them, getting to know their styles and their personalities. We wanted to make sure we found the right connection. We had heard about Mike Kane, and we had seen his work. We visited his shop and met him and Marcia. Something just clicked. We talked for some time about what we had in mind, and all seemed interested. Kathy and I never make a big decision without discussing it over dinner. So that night, Kathy and I had dinner in Queequays. We agreed there that Mike was definitely the best person to do a project of this magnitude. When we came back to the island, we spoke to Mike, Marcia, and Dorothy again. And we talked about how are we going to start this project? What do we need to do? But the key thing about it was that everyone was very excited. this was, I certainly felt, and Kathy felt also, that we had found a connection and that the excitement was going to be something that would bring an even more vibrant project to life. We ended the day with a trip to the Athenaeum. Well, Marcia and Dorothy wanted to go to the library to get copies of Moby-Dick so they could go through it again, so they could reread, so they could get more familiar or refamiliarize themselves with the book. And most importantly, think about how the hell are we going to do this? I'd like to take a moment, I'll come back. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Dorothy O'Hara, the scrimshander. Her work is magnificent. You see it in many of the pieces here in the museum today. Not only did she do a great job, and it was great for us to get to know her, but she also shared with us something that really kind of touched us. Her grandfather was a whaleman. And that was something that she put into this project. And I think she knew so much more from that experience and that heritage that she put it through and channeled so much into the project. So over the next few months, there were a lot of conversations about the project. One of the rewarding things about the experience was the feeling that Mike and company were just as excited about this as we were, and that all were working together collaboratively. Over the winter, we shared ideas and examples of what scenes we wanted, how we wanted the basket to look, how the basket needed to tell the whole story, not just a couple of vignettes. That the basket needed to incorporate the elements of whaling that were part of Nantucket history was a key thing that everybody agreed on. But the real creative process was how to incorporate the story into the basket, what to tell and how to tell it. It wasn't just about the excellent weaving of the basket. It was about weaving the story of Moby-Dick into the basket. At one point, we realized that it would probably take a while to get the basket done, and that it wouldn't be, this was the fall of 2006, and that the basket probably wouldn't be ready until 2007. Duh. Well, it made it even more special because 2007 was our 25th wedding anniversary. And it was special because we had shared so much of Nantucket and its crafts during our marriage at that point. And that would be a great way to celebrate and remember that time in our life. One other very important thing we learned when it comes to doing a project like this. When you have given voice and form to your ideas, you just need to step away and let the artist take the till. From then on, the conversations with Mike and Marcia were more like, I'm going to use Purple Heart for the base and the handles. Yeah, the skirt needs to be at least 1.5 inches wide to do the scrimshaw and the detail. The handles will be plain Purple Heart. The handles will have an ivory overlay. No scrim though. No, the latch can't be a tooth. No, I won't put any carved teeth on the side of the hinges. No, I don't agree with you. The latch can't be a harpoon. We need to talk about the top, the inside, as well as the outside. Yeah, that might work. I can do that. Yes, these conversations were a little one-sided. It was more, this is what you need and this is how I'm going to do it. But we learned to say yes, let go of the wheel, and respect the artistic insight of the people that were working to create this piece. The key crafts expressed in this project all tie back to Nantucket as much as the story of Moby-Dick and whaling are tied to the island. Basket weaving, scrimshaw, ivory carving, woodwork, all come together to tell the story of Moby-Dick. First, let's look at the weave. Mike is well known for his excellence of his microweave, but this is exceptional. If you look, and this picture does not do it justice, and please at some time come up and take a look at the basket. No touching. For anyone that's tried their hand at basket weaving, you know what it takes to get the tightness and symmetry executed here. I'm sure there were many, many hours of weaving and lots of eye strain for Marcia and Mike. I'm also sure that there were several creative strings of expletives expressed during the weaving. And look at the rim. Just for a minute, take a look at the symmetry and balance between the wrapping on the top and the wrapping on the bottom. Also, the use of the putty to cover the nails is something that I think Mike would say he learned from one of the greater and great historical basket weavers we see, Gibbs. The wood base and the handles are Purple Heart. It's soft color, and it has a soft color and a fine satin finish that contrasts with the strength and durability of this wood and the strength that it's known for. We could have gone with something else like rosewood, oak, but this was a special basket and needed to have wood that expressed that. It wasn't just any basket. When you have a chance, I'll turn it over and you can see the fine woodworking of the scalloping on the base of the basket. These are embellishments that only true artists bring to a design like this. The ivory carvings Mike did were very special. The latch is a polished and carved piece of whale tooth. It catches your attention right away, just like the sight of Moby-Dick from the crow's nest in the book. The effect of the fins not only provides balance and symmetry, but it also allows you to have a place to grip and rest your hand as you open the latch. I know Mike spent a long time, many, many hours trying to figure out how he was going to do this, how it was going to attach, how heavy it was going to be, how to make sure that it didn't slam down on the basket and the latch. When you open the latch, there's another little great surprise. The split harpoon that is on each side of the latch is something that is just a creative insight that you're not going to find. Okay? It provides balance. It also has a function, because when you close the whale tooth latch, it buffers so that you don't hit up against the skirt, so that you don't go in too deep, and you're not able to slam it, so you don't have something that has a potential to break. Now, the knobs of the handle are adorned with these teeny tiniest carved scrimshawed whale's teeth. This is an example of the type of artistic collaboration that raises the bar on a project. Think about how Dorothy felt when Mike told her that there needed to be whaling ships scrimmed on those tiny teeth. Lastly, the ivory overlay on the handles and the scrim work depicting the harpoons and the cutting tools is an example of balance and symmetry, again, that is amazing to me. And it brings images from the story and the piece itself that is balanced and symmetrical is in opposition to the ships and the whaling experience, which is something that is never balanced, that is never simple. It is the rolling of the waves. And yet this basket has the symmetry and the balance throughout that is juxtaposed by the story it's telling. When the handles are upright, the carved tooth latch lets you know immediately that there be whales here, Captain, which is kind of a line from the book. So let's go to the skirt. Dorothy's scrim. The story along the rim is told in blues, gold, browns, and yellows. The detail of the street cobblestones and bricks in the opening scene at the Spouter Inn is truly amazing. It also is a testament to the skill that Dorothy brought to the project. I'll keep it here. Picking the yojo, that's the little black man statue right there, and the tomahawk pipe is interesting because in part, it is part of Ishmael's first encounter with Queequeg at the Spouter Inn. In the book, they share this spirituality as Queequeg shows Ishmael the statue and the pipe, and they do a little ceremony in front of the two of them. In a way, it's offset the next day and balanced the next day when Queequeg goes to the Seamen's Bethel in New Bedford and participates in the religious ceremony there. I can tell you, most people, if you mention the Ojo, unless they're not going to know what you're talking about. And honestly, it's something that flashes by in the book. And the fact that Dorothy chose to bring those two pieces on and make that part of the skirt was really amazing. This is one of the pieces. This is a map. This is a map on the back of the basket that shows the voyage. And the map is interesting because you see us leaving what would be New Bedford, Nantucket, the area coming down, and the balance, again, of the whales on each side. But it's the words that I think we should take a moment to read. It's not down on any map. True places never are. What does that mean? Does anybody, this is one of the lines in Moby-Dick that you come across and you read it here and you go, what does it conjure up in your mind? There have been papers written about these lines from this book. There are probably master's theses done hundreds of pages, but this line just stuck out. It was something that we just thought was really interesting to pull out of the book. The sextant and the gold coin. This is important because when Ahab nails the coin to the mast, I think it's the first time we hear someone say Moby-Dick in the book. This is where he tells the crew, the first person who cites Moby-Dick gets that gold coin. It's about in the book they say it's about an ounce of gold. But Ahab changes his mind later. The sighting, the description of the sighting in the book is one of my favorite pieces because it just, the previous scene, they're talking about calm waters and they're all looking for Moby-Dick. And when Moby-Dick is sighted, the description and energy that Melville uses to describe it is like a fire drill. Everybody getting up and running and going and getting in place and manning the boat. So this scene, or as Dorothy depicted it, and don't forget the peg leg, don't forget the little peg leg, is a very important scene in the book. The stoving of the Pequot. This is the scene. This is the end of the voyage. This is the end of the hunt. This is the end of Ahab's revenge that he sought throughout the book, except for one thing. The whale wins. And this, the energy and depicted here in the splitting of the ship, and you can see people getting thrown off the mast, and there is Moby-Dick's tail, and Fidela, I think, is lashed, or that could be Ahab being pulled off the boat at the end. I think it's Ahab. It's really fabulous. And now we come to the inside. Did I skip one? No. Just let me go back to this for a minute. The top of the basket. Did I lose a photo? Okay. The carving of Moby-Dick. From the top of the basket, for the top of the basket, we wanted something dramatic. Okay? The whaling boats, Moby-Dick, the terror of the hunt, and most of all, the line, "Call me Ishmael." Those words open the book Moby-Dick, and those words here are seen as you open the basket. The Moby-Dick carving in relief coming out of the water rather than just scrimmed was something that Kathy wanted and Mike executed perfectly. The composition of the scene in Scrimshaw by Dorothy is kinetic, it has motion, and it has depth. The splashes of ocean green and the orange sunset in the horizon draws your eye into the frame. And there in the sky, watching it all is, we have some differing opinions on who that might be. Is it Ishmael? Is it Ahab? I don't know.
Ask Marcia.
I didn't.
No, I don't remember either who it would have been. I'll have to look in the notes, though. I bet you it's written in the notes.
So.
And she's not here to ask.
Right.
I know.
Maybe it's her.
Yeah. Well. Lastly, we're inside the basket. Kathy found this poem, and it just fit perfectly for the project. I think everybody, do you want me to read it, or everybody can? Okay. Oh, the rare old whale, mid storm and gale, in his ocean home will be, a giant in might, where might is right, and king of the boundless sea. So Dorothy depicting this on a scroll with the feather pen, right? Feather pen, whatever it is, just makes so much creative sense. It's period. It's the way they would have been writing things at the time. Again, the work, the heavier brown to give the sense of age, the darkening of the scroll to give it wear. It just wonderful, wonderful work. This is, again, as I mentioned, this was a tooth was a gift from us to us for our 25th wedding anniversary. And this tooth is our initials, Joseph Gallichio, Kathleen Gallichio, with the date we got married and our 25th anniversary in 2007. Working on this project was an amazing voyage for us. One that we will never forget, and one that we certainly try and celebrate whenever we have a chance to come to this museum, come to Nantucket, and be part of the whole island culture and experience. And finally, here's the day we picked up Moby-Dick. That's Dorothy and Mike and Marcia. And it's a treasure. It's a great work of art. The work of Mike, Marcia, and Dorothy is well beyond my attempts to adequately capture with words. Moby-Dick, as Andrea said, Moby-Dick has spent several summers at the museum, and Kathy and I certainly want to thank everyone, Andrea and the staff here at the museum, for giving us the opportunity to share Moby-Dick and its story with you. And thank you all for coming. Happy birthday, Herman Melville. If folks have any questions that Kathy, I, or maybe Marcia can answer, certainly shout them out.
How long did it take to make it? How long did it take to make it actually?
So figure
From start to finish?
from start to finish.
By the time you gave them the idea
It was a year.
a year?
A year.
Boy.
I mean, we came in the end of September '06, and we picked it up, as you can see, November of 2007. There was, but there were road trips to the Athenaeum. There were discussions. There were visits to the shop. There were several conversations about how things were going. So it was something that, even though we weren't seeing the basket and the progress, we certainly were in touch and were able to know what was going on and answer any questions or answer, whatever the topic happened to be. So it was a great experience. It was something that Kathy and I had never done before. Like commissioning a piece like this to have done was certainly something that we, never thought about doing. But there were just the sequence of events, the meeting Mike and Marcia and talking through this and rereading Moby-Dick, and Kathy and I sitting there discussing and going through the book and the different copies. We have several copies of Moby-Dick. We have a children's version. We have this. I mean, so there was a lot of source material that we had that we could reference. So it was quite a voyage, and I hope you enjoy it. Please.
I remember Dorothy had the book. There was a tape. The Essex tape, she would have that running while she was working on it too. And we had to be creative because we didn't want her doing a scrimshaw on the basket. So Michael made a mold for her to work on. Well, a lot of expletives said during that time frame, but so that it was attached to something so it wouldn't take a chance on it cracking. And then he had to put it on the basket afterwards, so that was a very stressful time.
Well,
how did you see a progress of what Dorothy was doing, or was it just all of a sudden?
There were a couple of times we saw things, but I think we didn't see the top until the day we picked it up.
Wow.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, there was the skirt, And I remember the discussion around the handles, because originally the handles were going to be plain wood. Then they were just going to be ivory up the side. And then, well, then we're going to do the whole handle, because you need the whole handle in ivory. And then, what are you, crazy? I'm not going to put anything on the latches. But I think this being the crowning piece that it is was something that, because Kathy and Mike had talked for a long time about the top and about how Moby-Dick was going to be portrayed. And Kathy had talked to Mike about, well, I'd like to see it coming out of the water, and then we're talking about the scrimshaw and how to fit this in and how to get this piece in relief without, and I don't know how these things are done, without destroying the rest of the scrimshaw that was being done. So you and I don't know, do you put it on first, and do you do the carving and thus outline it so that Dorothy stays around the outside of it? Well, what about this, the water? And so this was the last thing. And as Marsha will attest, the day we picked it up, see that magnifying glass? Let me tell you, I spent a good hour to an hour and a half with that magnifying glass going around, checking the weaves, and Mike he said, I've never seen anybody do that before. So yeah, I will admit I was a little anal about it, and just think for a minute, look at the way the scalloping on the skirt waves, and really, and I'm going to do this and try not to break it. And the scalloping repeated on the bottom, on the base. I mean, like I said, there comes a point when you've given your idea, Kathy and I are not shy people. We kind of, this is what we want, this is what we're thinking, this is how it should all fit together. And there comes a time when you step back and you say, okay, artist, go do it. And, the way the tooth attaches to the basket, the hinge in the tooth, it can't be loose so that it drops. It has to be tight, but it can't be too tight so that you're pulling on the tooth to open it, because that's not a good thing. So here it is. It's balanced. It sits, and no matter what, you won't slam against the basket itself. You have the harpoons there. So something used to kill is being used to protect. So
I think today, if it was done back then, we used cell phones so much, but I think today, if it was a project like that was done, there would have been a lot more pictures sent and that kind of thing because of the phones. But
yeah.
I remember there were a lot of conversations on the phone about different things that Dorothy wanted to do next and that kind of thing, but they
And
never saw it.
there were photos too.
There
They
were
sent
some.
periodic.
Yeah. But not like it would be nowadays, you just snap a picture with your phone and pass it on. Yeah.
So some of the, yes, ma'am.
Who made the final selection of which scenes you were depicting?
I would say it was more of a menu. Like we had certain ones that we certainly agreed would be there. Like I said in the presentation, we wanted it to tell the whole story. So from the Spouters Inn to Ishmael floating
In the coffin.
on the coffin at the end. And, you know, those two pieces, those two scenes were things that we all agreed on. And then there were a couple of things that we talked about that it was more, here are 10 things we'd really like. If you can fit all 10, that's great. But, you know, let us know which ones you're going to pick. The globe, that wasn't something
No, that
we...
was Mike, actually, I think, and Dorothy, if I recollect. Mike did the map of the
Yeah.
whole journey and that's going there. And I think that's fabulous.
That's not, I don't have anything close to that level of artistic insight. Okay, so that would be the kind of thing, you know, hey, I was happy we got Nantucket. Okay, we got Ishmael, you know, and I think the first time you walk, like I said, you walk in. We walked into the shop, and I think Marcia took this out and put it on the table. Just you walk up to it, and it's a breaching whale. Oh, there's the top of the whale, and it just draws your eye and your attention. It focuses you into the frame, and then you start like. The harpoons on the front, it's the same on each side. But on the back, it's the cutting tools. The block and the cutting tools, but it's the same on each side. What are the, the sighting, the storm, Ahab. These are all scenes from the book, and we had taken. Well, we had gotten Xerox. For those of you who know what a Xerox is, okay. We had gotten Xerox copies from the different. Remember, we have several Moby books that have illustrations in them, and the Rockwell Kent was like, wow, okay, this is another level. So we shared all of those, and again, it's the kind of thing that if you have confidence in the people that are doing the project from the artistic level, you gotta just say, okay, go for it.
We just learned to say yes.
Yes, we learned to say yes.
Say yes.
Yeah, it's easier that way, and those kinds of things. But again, you can just the tactile nature of the weave that is so tight. It's amazing. It's great. What can I say? Any other questions? Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your time on the island. So, and for those of you who choose to, please think seriously about making a donation to the Basket Museum. The organization is a great undiscovered treasure here in Nantucket, and your contributions will be well appreciated, and certainly our things will bring more lectures like this and more opportunities to have exhibits like this in the future. So please make a donation, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.